Our final speaker for the day is our keynote, which is about empowering everyone, leveraging analytics to create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforce. Our speaker has 37 years of experience in the consumer goods industry. He was termed as Turkey's most influential mind by the Forbes magazine. She's served on several prestigious boards. She's the former SVP and Chief Diversity and Engagement Officer at PepsiCo and a partner at August Leadership. We have, can you please put your hands together for Umran Beba. Round of applause, please. Over to Umran.
Good afternoon. It's great to be with you today. I really wanted to join in person. I have been to Pakistan many times. I always enjoyed actually my visits. But for this time, I will be joining you from Zoom. And here I am. As mentioned, I have a corporate experience of years, and out of the 35, 25 years with PepsiCo. I was in commercial, HR, and diversity leadership roles, and I enjoyed anything related to people. And that's still what I'm doing today with the mission of finding the right people for the right jobs, organizations, consulting, and supporting talent, organizations, and also culture evolution. So great to be here. And today I would like to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how we use technology and analytics within that space. Okay, let's quickly look at what's happening in the world of boards today. According to our research, the August Leadership Research and some other sources, we see that there is real demand for increased board and organizational diversity. So that's clear, but also the alignment to the ESG sustainability goals and relating this to the compensation. We also see actually privacy, cybersecurity type of topics. Of course, the overall managing the volatility, the impact of AI and technologies, and the overall, of course, dynamics to manage these difficult agenda points. And with that, I believe we can put diversity, equity, and inclusion metrics into the agenda in an effective way. So there are many attributes we can look at: the representation side, the inclusion side, and the communities side. I will not go through all of these, but I will talk about it during my actually presentation today. But before jumping into metrics, I want to make sure we see the integration of diversity, equity, inclusion strategy, the talent strategy, with business and sustainability strategy. Everything starts with business strategy. And today, most companies are also looking at sustainability strategy in a very serious fashion. And diversity, equity, inclusion is becoming part of the strategy with several metrics today. Same with talent strategy, several metrics today. It can be representation of critical diverse talent. It can be human rights. It can be the engagement of our employees, retention. I'm sitting in a public board today, and we really look at in every meeting what's going on in the world of talent and diversity in terms of these metrics: engagement, retention, representation. These are very critical metrics, but also some of these are linked to the compensation of the company management. So this is not anymore HR's problem. This is now the business leadership, and the boards also problem, challenge, opportunity, whatever you call it, they are interested in the analytics in this space. So we should feel good about it because they are talking about talent, they are talking about diversity, and that's the job of most of our HR leadership and also the company leadership. Today, in addition to the growth, revenue, profitability, cash flow type of metrics. So I want to dive into the HR analytics world a little bit. Today, we are lucky that there are tools in the market that we can use, or we can create it, of course, internally in-house. But these type of tools and applications help us to see the data with HR analytics. And with this type of data, actually, one of the important things, not only see the history, not only see the present, but we can also do predictions for the future. For example, retention is a big deal. We can actually understand using these models who is going to most likely stay, who is going to most likely leave, what are the parameters behind it, and what can we do in advance? How do we keep, for example, our diverse talent in our organization? What are the parameters we can use and support this agenda and make sure we retain the right talent, right? So that's critical. And as we do this, we can really look at 360 KPI sets. We can develop our own company sets. We can benefit from also the external knowledge. But you can look at up to 250, 300 KPIs, and you can play with it. And it can start from the top of the house, and it can go down to any levels we want. And with that, it will be actually available to top management. So they can look at the employee statistics, they can look at recruitment statistics, turnover statistics, and with these dashboards, we can look at the current situation, but as I said, we have also the possibility of looking into the future. And this can also go to the time management, which is important because absenteeism, the correlation between engagement and absenteeism and how we can really understand some of the challenges. Let's say if there is an inclusive environment challenge, and if there are absenteeism realities, sometimes we can actually look at what's going on and understand the root causes. We need to create an inclusive environment, and therefore most of these analytics will help us how to maintain such, for example, KPIs. The salary comparison is important, especially with the diversity, equity, inclusion lens. Pay equity these days is very important. So how can I really look at the gaps in my organization? Am I paying less to, let's say, one gender versus the other? Are there gaps? How can I actually close these gaps and make sure I have an equitable environment and my pay data is supporting that, and I can look at it every day, every month, every year, right? So that's a very important tool. And as I mentioned before, the prediction also, I can use several parameters, engagement scores, time in job, performance ratings, and predict if there will be a turnover in one function, in one gender, or in one, let's say, area of concern, and then I can actually take some precautions in advance. So some people are interested in development, some others are interested in new jobs and challenging roles, some others are having issues with their pay. So we can actually look at all these statistics and make sure we can keep our talent as much as we can. Of course, not everything is in our control, but this prediction capability is very important, and that should be the future, not only looking at history and present. And also I can look at my recruitment statistics. Am I targeting the right, let's say, universities? Am I targeting the right geographies, the educational background, the gender statistics? So do I have diverse slates? Do I really capture my talent pool in the best way, capturing all genders, all educational backgrounds, all geography? So I can actually move with this knowledge, with the analytics in a better direction. And performance management also is an area we can look at with this lens of analytics and make sure if there is a gap between, let's say, different genders, different functions, different areas, and making sure I can do a good calibration to be fair to my employee base. Same with training management. Is everybody getting equal opportunities in access or accessing the training and development? How can I have is actually the AI-powered recruitment processes and tools. Why is this important? Because recruitment is where everything starts from the point of diversity. We want to make sure we have a diverse workforce representing our consumers, customers, stakeholders. Our population, the reality of our I want to make sure I can have the full representation of the pool in my process. And I can use a system which learns from what's going on, not static. So it starts with job posting. The language we use in job posting has to be gender friendly, has to be age friendly, has to be different abilities friendly. So everything starts with recruitment, and the language we use in our job postings has to be sensitive to the realities of representation, diversity in our company. It should be in line with our values. So with that awareness, actually, the system can learn what we are using, and there can be suggestions also for the job posting. So it is a learning system. You can actually look at different, like CVs and understand how they are integrated. You can reach the passive candidate pool, again, with the diversity lens that you want to reach. If it's gender, if it's age, if it's different abilities, education, geography, distribution, whatever are the metrics you want to use, you can actually create that pool with these type of systems. And then you can have actually a scoring and ranking in these type of systems for all of your candidates, and you can see the best. And you can understand also how, with the diversity lens, how they are representing the population, my consumer, my customer. So that's the lens we want to create with all these technologies and tools, right? We can help our recruiters also to make sure they connect with these candidates and make sure they give them a chance to be with you. It's like a personal assistant after a point, because our recruiters are always busy. They have incredible workload. So we need to help them with these type of systems so they can really focus on what matters. What matters is to get the best person, get the best competencies in our company, but also making sure we take care of the diversity metrics. We take care of the representation. So we start this process with the language, with the pool, with the access, with communication, and get the best in our organization with the diversity lens. And then we can have all these analytics and dashboards for our HR function, but in communication also with our leadership team, whoever is the recruit, let's say the hiring manager, which functions, so we can show them what's going on in the market, what's going on in our recruitment. So it's not anymore, my observations or recruiters' observations, but it's the full analytics that we can use out of these systems. So with all these technologies, etc., I want to quickly touch base on the PepsiCo time. As I said, I spent 25 years. I was the Asia Pacific president at some point, living in Hong Kong, visiting Pakistan a lot. And then I was living in Dubai as the CHRO for Asia, Middle East, North Africa, then moved to the US. And after moving from Dubai to US, I became the SVP CHRO for HR systems and processes. And my last role when I retired was the Chief Diversity Officer. So I was a proud PepsiCo employee and a leader. And one of the reasons my values and company values really matched very well. And today, what they are talking about is the PepsiCo positive, about agriculture, value chain choices. So this is the sustainability ESG approach. When I was in the company, we were focusing on environmental sustainability, talent sustainability, and also the communities. And within the talent sustainability, diversity representation was a big chunk. And we established in 2016 a goal of 50% in the management roles, 50% gender representation. And when I left, it was around, I think, 41, 42%. So by 2025, that was the goal, and they are definitely continuing with this mission. But it's important to understand your reality, understand your consumer. And in our case, at that time, most of the shopping decisions in these categories, 70%, were handled by women. So we had to represent them in the best fashion, and we had to make sure they were in the decision-making roles. So diversity, equity, inclusion has been part of PepsiCo's strategy since 1940s. So it's nothing new, but what is new is really they adapt to the reality of the marketplace. Wherever you are, you have to identify your diversity lens. If you are in the US, it will be, let's say, gender, ethnicity, different abilities. If you are in Pakistan, maybe you will focus on gender, different abilities, and maybe different generations. So it really depends on where you are. But we see globally that gender is an important area of focus. So with that, I think a company like PepsiCo, they really talk about diversity as something, it's a moral value, of course, that you want to give equal chance to everybody in your population. But also it is about the representation, it's about the consumer, it's about the customer, and using the pool to the maximum, the pool of candidates. Today, we are all fighting for talent, all fighting for getting the best talent, retaining the best talent. And within that, if we don't use the full pool of candidates with, male, female, different abilities, different ages, then we are losing something. And with that lens, actually, for example, today, this is the recent public information, the PepsiCo's diversity, equity, inclusion metrics are focusing on gender parity, as we say, and they are still actually using the goal we have established in 2016, which was part of the Performance with Purpose at that time. And it's about 50% women in management roles globally by 2025. And at this point, they are at 44. When I left, it was, I think, 41. So it's all about progress. It's all about having that goal, and it's all about progress and measuring your progress every year with analytics. This is only the outcome of the analytics, but behind the scenes, you have the recruitment analytics, as we discussed. You have the development analytics. You have the promotion analytics. So with all that, you know where you are going in 10 years. So if you have a 10-year goal, you know every year where you want to go, what is the progress you want to see, and how it's impacted by your metrics, recruitment, promotion, turnover, right? So that's the end result. And also they look at, in the US, of course, the Black and Hispanic representation. Depending on the market, this can change. It really depends on that you understand your consumer, your customer, your population, and just represent them. And it's beyond numbers also. They look at pay equity for many years now, and the recent result is less than 1% variance. But this is an ongoing discipline with your compensation function. They have to look at the gender or racial, depending on your focus areas, the pay equity. And if there are gaps, you need to close those gaps. You may not close them in a year, but you will have a plan of 3 to 5 years to close those gaps. So you have pay equity in your organization. Also, you look at inclusion scores, you look at engagement scores, and making sure you build inclusive leaders in your company with training and development. We can do that. We can create a diversity strategy together. We can create an inclusion strategy together and train and develop your leadership teams first, and then cascade it down the organization. And this is going to impact engagement. This is going to impact your retention. It's going to impact your growth, innovation. I mean, this is like, let's do it type of a thing, you know? And also it's about other, you know, like recognition and career development and all that stuff. And you can also be very specific. For example, females in supply chain. You can talk about it in a specific country, in a specific location. You can focus on that depending on your company's business. It can be technology, it can be manufacturing. So you want to make sure not only increase, let's say, the females in supply chain, but you want to increase also in sales. Maybe, I mean, there might be 1 or 2 functions you want to IT, you want to increase these numbers, or hiring differently abled individuals. This is beyond legal requirements. You want to make sure you create meaningful jobs for them. And multicultural diversity, that's for growth, that's for innovation. We have to deal with it, and it's actually an opportunity to have all these different experiences in one place and to get the best out of them. And also diverse suppliers. It's not only about our employees. Diversity, equity, inclusion agenda is about the ecosystem. Beyond our employees, we also want to make sure the diverse suppliers are contributing to our business. That's what actually PepsiCo is looking at, and they invested already $1 billion in diverse suppliers. And also the brands. If you have brands and if you want to correlate the brands with your diversity message in a meaningful way, you can also do that. And that's what PepsiCo is doing, and that's, I'm sure, today Unilever is doing, P&G is doing. So how do you use your brands and their voice to support the agenda of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And we see a lot of great advertising in that space also. Net, I want to say that we, as leaders, either as business leaders or HR leaders, talent leaders, diversity leaders, this should be an agenda of integration. Integration of business strategy with sustainability strategy, with diversity, equity, inclusion strategy, and talent strategy. And in the middle of that, we have to use analytics, business analytics, within that, HR analytics, talent analytics, diversity analytics. So that's the future, and we have to use, of course, technology to have this data in high quality fashion. Quality of data is also important, and we take that data and really create meaningful insights, foresights, to have a better business, to have a better world. And thank you very much. It was a pleasure to speak with you today, and maybe we have a chance to get a couple of questions.
Achaji, for the questions, can I please ask you to log into Slido? Slido खोल लें और सवाल शेयर कर लें. We want to take 2 questions. 2 सवाल हम ले लेते हैं. Slido खोल लें और सवाल शेयर कर लें. स्लाइडो पे आ जाएं, सवाल शेयर कर लें. Share your questions. We can have. Apologies. Share your questions. We can have 2 questions. Scan कर लें, सवाल पूछ लें. स्लाइडो का क्यूआर कोड स्कैन कर लें, कोई सवाल पूछ लें उमरान से। वक्त कम है, मुकाबला सख्त है। देखें, प्लीज स्कैन कर लें क्यूआर कोड। स्लाइडो पे कोई सवाल है तो वो शेयर कर लें। We have a few more minutes with Umran. Okay, we have a question. Zabardast.
For example, I mean, some of these human capital management companies do have good resources where you can read about and understand the metrics and how they can also help you. But I mean, as I said, we worked in terms of pay equity with them. But at this point, also, my mission is based on my experience. I want to make sure companies can really develop this strategy, develop these metrics, and take the ones that are relevant for their needs. You know, we have a list of metrics you have seen on one of my slides. But when we develop the strategy for diversity, equity, inclusion, we make sure we take the relevant ones for the needs of the organization and accordingly design a plan. But in terms of the easier way of getting, you know, your understanding, your development, I would say just check those. Like, as I said, Mercer is a good resource. Sometimes I'm thinking about, I mean, World Economic Forum has good, actually, also reports. I was part of their Diversity Council for a while, and we developed a lot of good reports, World Economic Forum. Gartner, I would say. So these are some of the companies that would provide high quality reports regularly where you can look at and understand.
All right, we want to take one more question. एक और सवाल, QR code scan कर लें. We have Umran with us for a few more minutes. The QR code's right here
So
on the
if
screen.
there are no other questions, then I would like to meanwhile thank the Pakistan Society for Training and Development. It was a pleasure to be here today via Zoom, and technology worked. I was able to speak to you. I hope the quality of the internet and everything worked well, but it's a pleasure. And when I'm in person in Pakistan, I would like to also meet with some of you and understand your needs and help you in this journey of developing your talent strategy, diversity, equity, inclusion strategy. This is all for better business, better world, and better ecosystems. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening ahead of you and a wonderful year end, which is always busy for HR professionals. Okay, yes, how about ethical concerns in such sensitive data? It's a very good question, very good actually concern. So when you use sensitive data, first of all, some of these questions will be asked based on the willingness of the, let's say, the individual. For example, if you come to the US, there are some questions, for example, about ethnicity of people, right? So they don't have to answer that question if they are willing. So we call it self-declaration. So self-declaration is about if you are willing to answer such questions, you will answer such questions. But if you don't, you don't. So first of all, that starts, some of these sensitive topics will start with self-declaration and the willingness to answer. So that's one part of the equation. But then if you come to the overall data usage, you need to identify the people who can have access, right? So in your systems and in your access, you need to give permissions to certain positions, of course. Not everybody will be seeing this type of data, so it will be a couple of people in HR and also the leadership teams. But by person, by role, we can define who has access, and there is also the tracking of the usage, right? And then how do you publicly or internally use this data needs a lot of consideration. Why do you want to use this data? How do you want to use this data? For example, in terms of predictions, we said that, we want to predict about the future and how people will, for example, if, let's say, a person has been in the organization